Before we start, you should know a couple things. One is I sound like I've lost my voice, because I have. It happens, and I almost considered dropping this episode on a whole other date until I remembered I'm a human, and humans sometimes lose their voice. So, onward. And to be honest, I don't mind a little rasp when it comes to this topic. Also, you should know that this episode talks about sexual abuse. So if you or someone you know needs help, you can contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 800-656-HOPE.
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Sam?
Yes, I can. I'm trying to use a room because I'm in a church. Just give me 1 minute. I think I'm going to go in my car.
How did I know you were at church?
This is Samuel Andre. He's talking to me in his car outside of a church in Queens, New York. A church I used to spend at least 12 hours a weekend attending. Not because I'm super religious or anything, but because when you hang with Sam and his people, that's what you do. You go to church.
It's good. We used to live at that church.
Yes.
23 years ago, when I was 16, Sam was my manager, as in he managed my singing career, both independently and in various sectors of the music industry. How I met him, it's kind of a cool story. My senior project at Randolph Union High School in Randolph, Vermont, involved making my very first CD in a piano teacher's basement. It was back in the days of ADAT machines and the actual, ribbon tape for tapes, cassettes. If I recall correctly, CDs were a little revolutionary at the time. Anyway, I made my CD with all my little heart and soul, even though it wasn't very good, and then graduated. I graduated early. I was just 16. And instead of taking a gap year or prep school or anything that could have allowed my emotional intelligence to catch up with my brain, I said, let's do it the hard way. Let's go straight to college. Once I arrived, I passed that little CD onto someone who knew Sam, who actually thought it was great. And boom, there, I found myself, smack in the middle of freshman year of college in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and the music industry in New York City. I straddled the two worlds for about 2 years, and Sam was a part of it all, picking me up, dropping me off, offering me his guest room, taking me to lots and lots of church, and genuinely doing his very best to make this a holistic experience for me. A task that, in retrospect, was impossible to achieve. And today I'm on a mission to talk with Sam about this impossibility. First, a little housekeeping.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I have permission from you to use this conversation in the podcast.
Yes, you do. You have permission.
This is the first time I've ever put this on tape. This permission ask. Frankly, I don't really know why I'm doing it, because as a reporter, if someone agrees to an interview with you, you technically already have permission to put it out into the world. But I'm about to lay something on Sam he wasn't totally expecting. Something I haven't spoken to him about since we worked together all those years ago. So maybe this is my gentle way of letting him know, as a friend, you might not like what I have to say.
I'm glad we can talk today. Are we by ourselves? Because we're going to have a pretty heavy conversation. Are you by yourself?
Yes, I am.
During my time in New York with Sam, some hard stuff happened. And I'd like to take a moment to say that although I do use my life experience as a sort of explorative entrance point into larger topics on this show, in general, I am a pretty private person, especially when it comes to the big stuff. So today, I'm a little nervous. Thanks for taking care of me. To set the scene, somewhere in the year of 2001, I was taking the Greyhound bus between my college campus in rural Pennsylvania in New York City regularly, like every weekend. In one life, at school, I was a student, and I suppose in the other life, in the industry, well, I was a student there too. I was eager to learn and very much in need of some mentorship. That's where Sam came in.
A lot of managers, they don't train their artists how to go about the industry. And then they end up falling, because, going through your journey, there's potholes. And your manager is supposed to be your mentor as well. So seeing the potholes, when you were 16, beautiful girl coming in. My first thing is, I have to take you as I'm your parent because your parent is not here. So I'm your mentor. I won't let people abuse you. A lot of women in the industry, they get disrespected by going to big mogul, so they want to sign with them. So sometimes they disrespect them, like I explained to you, sexually, mentally. It's they abuse them. You see what's going on now. Everything is coming out in this generation, what used to happen before. So if you have a mentor, the mentor is supposed to protect you, especially as a black woman. It's supposed to protect our black women, instead of using them. So back, it wasn't that easy.
It wasn't easy being young, black, and vulnerable in what was, without us really knowing it, the death rattle of the music industry as we knew it. Before the internet came along and changed everything. And eventually, it got harder. Here's what I remember. The label life was often referred to as the machine, and it was just that, a financially lubricated machine with its eyes set on me. I had stylists, braiders, songwriters at the ready. I had someone to teach me how to pose for the camera, how to sing from the new places in my body, and how to record music in DAWs and other systems that I even use now for this podcast. No matter what I did or who I did it with, I was told I was beautiful. I was young, light-skinned, black, thin, and incredibly eager. Qualities known to everyone but me. Because I still saw myself as this buck-toothed only black girl for miles in Randolph, Vermont. That is to say, the way they were all looking at me didn't match the way I saw myself. Not really like the beauty part, but the sexuality part. I just wasn't there in my development. I was fresh out of puberty. I'd only gotten my period 2 years prior. So when they handed me my storyboards and stylistic vision, and it was all very skimpy and naughty and way above my pay grade, I put it on. I held the pose. I did the things I was told to do. What did I know? Or maybe I should have known better? I don't know. Sam did always caution me and other women about the dark side of the music industry in his own old school kind of way.
As an artist, you're supposed to, especially black female, black artists, you're supposed to protect yourself, cover yourself, because you're teaching the generation and the coming up generation, how to let men respect you.
But Sam was also the person, my entrusted person, who was connecting me with some of the stylists and dropping me off at studios with producers, who were usually men. And though Sam would check in with the producer and let us both know our goals for the day, eventually he would leave us to go about our work. And then it was just me, a microphone, a thin piece of glass, and whoever was on the other side of that vocal booth.
Why didn't you stay with me, through the sessions with some of them?
Some of the session, yes, I could stay with you. Some I could not stay with you. You understand? Because if I know who's at the studio, which studio that you are going to, so the session is going to be with the producer, the engineering, and then you. So I will go in some session I would not to see what's going on. But when the session is going on, after the session, usually I ask, how's everything? What happened? I'm looking for information. That's the information that, I need to know. Because if I step out in the studio, and then things happen, you have to let your manager knows what happened.
I didn't let my manager know what was happening in those studios. I didn't let anyone know, because that confusion I talked about earlier about not knowing or developing a sense of sexuality while also being hypersexualized, about what I was supposed to do to be in the industry versus what people were telling me I had to do to stay in the industry, that confusion eventually turned to silence and shame. So why now, after all these years, am I having this conversation with Sam? well, there's never a good time to talk about something like this. But right now, in 2024, while this episode is dropping into your feed, hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been hit with 5 lawsuits in New York, accusing him of sexual assault, sexual trafficking, and engaging in other criminal activity. Former model Crystal McKinney also filed a lawsuit accusing the rapper of drugging and sexually assaulting her at his New York City recording studio in 2003. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, spoke out after CNN obtained a 2016 video of Diddy attacking her in a hotel hallway. Grammy Award-winning R&B singer R. Kelly has been sentenced to 30 years in prison on 3 charges of producing child sexual abuse images and 3 charges of enticement of minors for sex. Young Black girls and women abused in the music industry are finally a little more seen, a little more heard, a little more welcomed into the conversation of injustice and humanity. So, I figure with my story, maybe now is the right time to tell it. Better late than never, I guess.
But I did have some situations in some of those studios where I was sexually abused by producers. And I've been really thinking about that a lot lately.
When we were together?
When we were working together.
No, Myra. Oh.
From Vermont Public, this is Homegoings. I'm Myra Flynn. And today's episode is an expose of sorts as I speak with 2 female musicians and an expert about what it means to be ambitious.
I'm here to participate as a leader, as a contributor, and not someone to be taken advantage of.
Broke.
Like, why do they tell us that? Oh, go find someone to barter with, or you don't have any friends that'll do it for free. Like, do you have any friends that'll come to your office and help you do your work for free? No.
And brown and black in the music industry.
American music is Black music. And as America's most potent cultural export, Black women are at the heart of a lot of that.
This episode is going to be a 2-parter because it became clear that this is what makes sense for these stories. They need to take the time they need. So settle in to hopefully do a whole lot of feeling and learning, maybe even encouraging for you to tell your story in an episode we're calling Stories from the Spotlight, Surviving the Music Industry as a Woman of Color. This is Homegoings. We're a proud member of the NPR network. Welcome home. Back when Sam was my manager, he did sometimes give me conflicting advice about how I was supposed to carry myself as a Black female artist in the music industry.
But I don't see why we can disrespect a woman, Black artist with female, for you to sell your body to make money. But because your talent is what's the most important, your talent. I mean, if you an artist and all you talk about is sex, so unfortunately, that's the image you're presenting, you're going to have to go there. You have some artists, rap artists, you have to sell yourself. You don't have to sell your body, especially if you're Black. Keep your head high.
For the record, I don't blame Sam for these conflicting messages about fame and talent and sex. We are both byproducts of the confusion that's baked into the music industry itself. Be sexual, but not too sexual. It's all about your talent, but depending on your genre, your image is a big part of that too. Put yourself out there and cover yourself up. Protect yourself while you exploit yourself, while you hold your head high. It's exhausting. And I've always tried to do this, to keep my head held high as a Black woman. But before you can be a proud Black woman, you're a young Black girl, naive as anyone else, except the world does not see you this way. In fact, many studies show that across all age ranges, the world views Black girls collectively as more adult than white girls. The perception also is that we need less protection and nurturing than white girls, and we are perceived to know more about sex at a young age. In short, we are not afforded innocence. There's a reason for this. Research also shows that there's a connection between the stripping of Black girls' innocence and the harsher treatment that they receive from public school officials and law enforcement. According to some studies, compared to white girls, Black girls are 2 times more likely to be disciplined for minor stuff like dress code violations or loitering. They're also more likely to be punished for disobedience or being disruptive. To put it plainly, if authorities and public systems view Black girls as less innocent, less needing of protection, and generally more like adults, Black girls can also be viewed as more culpable for their actions, despite the fact that they're, kids. And this stuff, this murder of innocence, follows you into adulthood by way of nasty stereotypes. Because if you were never afforded innocence as a kid, it certainly isn't on the table as you get older. Black women are often described as loud, defiant, angry, aggressive, and hypersexual. So, being 16, in college, which is kind of a grown-up space, but not really. In the music industry, which is definitely a grown-up space, but not really. I entered this scene somewhere between a girl and a woman. And that, in America anyway, especially while Black, is a deliciously vulnerable and enticing space to occupy for predators. I'd hoped to have this conversation with Sam long ago, to tell him what was happening to me behind closed doors. I wanted to. I just couldn't. It's hard to describe, but somehow I didn't want him or I to look back on our time together as sullied or bad. I mean, who gets into the music industry at 16? To this day, I still catch myself wanting to boast about this time proudly to other folks in the industry. I want to remember it with pride and luck and determination and inspiration. But then I'd be lying. And I've done enough of that. To myself and to Sam. During this short interview, I've counted at least 10 times he's asked me,
Why didn't you tell me? That if I knew it. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I'm having a bad day now. I'm in church. I left the church. I'm having a really bad day right now. I'm totally in shock.
That's the thing about abuse. It spreads, hurts everyone it touches. We've got some catching up to do.
Well, did you go back to the studio when it happened?
I did.
Why didn't you tell me? Or were you afraid or?
I think I didn't want to let anyone down. I'd done a lot of work to convince my parents that it was okay for me to be there. So I had kind of just had high expectations for myself while being there. I was also so young, fresh out of high school, didn't know how to advocate for myself, didn't understand really what was happening. And also Sam, didn't want to let you down. I came out there to work and to work hard. I'd be playing one of my songs and halfway through the song, they'd come up behind me and the door was locked and we were in a studio and there was nowhere to go. And I just didn't think, I thought it was my fault. I thought there was something wrong with me? I was young. I was a baby, Sam, and I certainly wanted you to be proud of me. I wanted you to be proud of what I was doing, because you'd set up all of those.
That's not true. That's not how you get in the music industry, by selling your body sexually. No, it's your talent. You understand?
Well, I mean, I was 16 and I wasn't selling my body. I was in studios alone a lot of the time.
No, I'm going to say, I'm not. I'm going to be part of you. I'm going to be part of you by you being happy. If something doesn't make you happy, I remember I tell you since day one. If an artist told me, I had a female artist that I took to one of the label, I'm not going to mention the name, and the label did that, and I said, stop, because what it is, according to the law, it is not right. You understand? It's not right, because the fact that you're going to go that route, for somebody else to tell you, and once you tell the person no, the person has to listen to you, and that's not what making me. I'm not going to be proud by seeing one of my artists, people abusing. You have to let you have to let someone know, so for me to know and know about it, because when that happened, if you don't do that, that's what you letting me down. You understand?
And it's really triggering even right now, hearing you say, like, I'm letting you down. Like, even that, this whole time was such a, like, formidable part of my adult, becoming an adult. Like, it was, I'm even like tripped up on my own words. I feel like a kid right now, just thinking about it. Cause I just, do you have any compassion for the fact that I was 16 and like at that time you don't necessarily know how to advocate for yourself, how to stand up for yourself, how to tell your manager, how to tell a friend, how to tell anyone? I didn't tell anyone for years. It's literally until recently when somebody asked me this question live that I just like broke down, because I've been holding this secret for years. And I couldn't think of anyone else to talk to about it. Like, you seem like the ideal person to talk to about it. Because I understand, right? You're not supposed to, as a woman, you're not supposed to. I wasn't a woman. I was a girl. These men were not supposed to do that. I guess like I just wanted to talk to you about me. I wanted to hear your reaction. I kind of still like want your, like, because you were like a dad to me. I kind of want you to tell me that you love me and you're sorry that happened.
And I'm glad you're telling me now. For such a long time we don't talk. I'm glad you're telling me. But at the same time, me just thinking about it, I have to just go. It's gonna, it's just like my kid, my one of my 5 kids, as that happened. It's not an easy thing. You understand? It's not easy to hear that. It's not easy. It's not more music. It's more of a family that you are to me. You understand? And this. Hold on. It's not good.
I just wanted you to be the first person to let you know that even though it took me a long time, now is when I was able to talk about it. And that's all.
Did you tell the person no?
I did, yes.
My word. Oh. I'm really disappointed. I'm telling you. I'm disappointed because things that you don't want to happen is things that's happening. And, like you said, you don't want to happen is happening in your backyard. And you don't know no clue, nothing about it. If anything going through the music industry that happened to you, I need to know about it, because the fact that it's not right. It is not. And a lot of young artists, black artists, female, this is what later on, we're hearing about. Oh, this was happening to that person. Why you never bring that to me?
I think I was just trying to be in the industry, and the people who were doing it were telling me that's what I needed to do to be famous.
Thank you all for holding space for my story today. I'm still processing a lot of this conversation, and I'm sure you have many thoughts of your own. But I know one thing I'm certain of: to share this with all of you, with Sam, and to be honest with myself about this time in my life feels good. Again, if you or someone you know needs help, you can contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE. When we come back, we'll explore more fallouts of fame and dive into another kind of injustice Black women face in the music industry.
I probably have right now, maybe $100 worth of $1 or 69-cent checks. It's literally that bad.
Homegoings has support from Rutland Regional Medical Center, where healthcare equity and access are the foundations to a healthy community. Learn more about their services and locations at rrmc.org. And by the Vermont Arts Council, working to center creativity, art, and culture for everyone throughout Vermont. Learn more about programs, resources, and grant opportunities at vermontartscouncil.org.
When you see is actually you're seeing when you see American Idol,
Right.
you see that they have open auditions. They don't have open auditions because they need talent to be on the show. They're doing open auditions because that's marketing for their show.
It's content.
No, it's marketing. Every single last person that's in that audience.
Make no mistake about it, this chatter is more than just sipping and spilling tea with a bunch of good girlfriends. This is a collective of musical ladies and powerhouses who have had long years of career success, dreams realized, hit singles, hit records, and some serious life on the road. We're sitting outside on a Friday night sussing out the inner workings of what the industry looks like now so we can plan our next steps. We're half friends, half business partners. And this conversation is half hang, half business meeting. That's how it goes these days.
First of all, when you sign any contract, how you getting out of it? How you getting out of it?
Right.
When I'm reading the contract is between two people of what they're both going to do. And it's also how much they're going to pay each other to do it. Or who's going to get what. Are you going to get money or are you going to get content or whatever it is, the album, right?
Yeah.
But also, when is it over?
Right.
What are you agreeing to do? What are they agreeing to give you?
Right?
This voice, the one rising to the top, is my friend and sometimes colleague, Charisse Ballard. You may remember her from our first episode of Season 2 of Homegoings, Aging in Full Color. She had so much to say about the music industry, we brought her back. You may know Charisse better as the artist Reese, whose debut solo album, How I Do, exploded on the scene and the charts in 2001 with post-punk pop rock soul hits like Golden Boys, They Say Vision, and a personal anthem of mine, I've Known the Garden.
One of these days, the year is up. Shouldn't we take the time now to show our love? One of these days.
And Reese does this. She rises to the top of pretty much everything. As a self-described, unapologetically hard-headed woman who says what's on her mind, most of us as her friend just think of her as a total boss with a tender heart. We ain't scared of you, Reese. Reese has also lived a different life than the rest of us because she's a little older than us and more, quote, famous than the rest of us in this group. She remembers when the music industry had crazy money, when they were buying condos on the beach, giving out six-figure advances, and truly investing in everything that came out of an artist's mouth. And her record, we talked about, How I Do, it didn't just hit. It became a classic, sending her on the road, in and out of studios, stadiums, navigating strange people, strange places, new opportunities, and negotiating her way through deals and dollars for years.
So then you also want, the most important thing about the situation is these things in the contract, is what I'm saying. Because the contract is, the contract is when the shit goes to shit, that's what the fuck they're going to look at, and that's what the fuck they're going to go by, point blank, right? So how
that is until it came and changed everything. It being the internet. Here's what's up with the internet and music. In short, the streaming thing, it ain't working. The streaming revenue model itself is actually financially devastating at best. At best. And when I say best, I'm talking Taylor Swift's best. Beyoncé's best. At worst, it's career-ending, particularly for independent artists. So, say you've got a song and you want to get it up on all the streaming platforms. Here's the math on that song. For 1 million plays of your precious creation, you will receive roughly $5,000 on Amazon Music, about the same on Apple Music, maybe double on Google Play, and around $1,700 on YouTube. For 1 million streams. And these are the good checks at Spotify, which holds upward of 36% of market share and counted 286 million monthly active users in 2020. For 1 million streams, artists average less than a penny per stream. A penny. Got you thinking about how you consume your music? It should. Because as indie Black femme musicians who have been at the center of most of the music all of us have ever listened to, this is all we think about.
Can you tell me what your last check from Spotify sent you in the mail?
Oh, I don't even get checks from Spotify in the mail. But what I do get is I got a check from Warner Brothers. And that check, I wish I had it to show you guys. It was for about $1.42. And I refuse to even accept like a wire from them. You know, they could just like put my money in direct deposit. But I refuse. I'm like, no, I'm going to cost you something. Like, you're going to print this out and you're going to send me this check that I never cash. I probably have like right now maybe $100 worth of $1 or 69-cent checks. Like, it's literally that bad.
Money, 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 money. Why does money matter so much? Well, because this is America, baby. We run on money. But I can't tell you how many times, despite my best efforts to tell folks that as musicians, we don't make any, the response has been, but at least you get to do what you love, right? Yeah, and even though Black artists never made much money, regardless of the fact that we are the very sound of American music itself, we are still sometimes solely valued and defined by our art forms. In fact, music has historically been one of the largest currencies of Black culture. But today, with more artists like Reese going from major labels to the indie artist route and having no choice to participate in the game of streaming, it's harder than ever to make your dollars and cents make sense.
I think what we should do is, if you can give me a rundown, I don't know, let's say a year as an independent artist, a year of expenses and investments for what you've done, everything from music to t-shirt to studio time to whatever. I just want to make like a cost and then just total that up and tell you what it is.
I re-recorded my album, How I Do, not too long ago. I had to hire each musician, keys, guitar, drums, and bass. So that's 4 people, plus an engineer, plus the studio. I paid those guys $500 a day. I paid the drummer $750 a day. I paid the engineer $300 a day. And then I had to pay a $500 a day studio cost. And that roughly took about 9 days. I had to have the drummer mix it. That was another $500 a track. So he's mixing it, but he's also mixing it at his studio. So total, that was $500 a day. I had to pay for mastering, which was $90 a track or something like that.
Are you ready to hear your expenses tallied up?
Oh yeah, it's probably my whole life. It's like, how much?
Well, let's just talk about a year of putting out a product and looking stage ready. You ready? $37,080.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I definitely believe that.
Music is not the only industry or art medium to be taking this beating. Broadcast TV got Netflixed, photography got Instagrammed, and these days, AI can pretty much replace all of us. But music, in a way, was kind of the prototype for this model of the get the same product you've always had for free. It always made me wonder, what is it about music that was the decided guinea pig for this model? Have we always had come screw us over on our foreheads? Did the starving artist trope just stick? Or is it something deeper?
I don't understand it. I don't understand when people say they love food. They love the process. They love who does it. And when they become aware of it, they pay for it. They legit pay for it. Like, no one questions the bottle of wine being $300 after they hear like 3 sentences about where it's from or whatever, whatever the little anecdote that goes with the wine. No one ever complains of why caviar costs so much or, why lobster costs so much. And if you question it, then they go into the process and how dangerous it is. It's dangerous being an artist. I don't know why the expectation is so high for us to produce when, and I believe maybe the audience, they don't quite understand how much it really takes. And we as artists don't necessarily show how much it takes because it's not cool. It doesn't make me look strong. It doesn't make me look what you see Reese as. Seeing Reese struggle doesn't go with the brand,
What Reese says here makes sense to me. There's often a conflict of interest between humanity and fame. And sadly, no matter how bad it gets, if you don't show up as a human being at your job, then you don't get to all of a sudden become one when times are rough. There's been some successful toe dips in the pond of financial equity for artists with crowdsourcing models like Patreon and Kickstarter. But in general, the struggle to hold being seen as someone worthy of a struggle in one hand, while balancing the nuance of mystery, ego, and rock stardom in the other, really just makes your music career one big exercise in futility. So, who's protecting us? Where are our Hollywood strikes? It's not like we don't have a union as working musicians. We do. It's called the AFM, the American Federation of Musicians of the U.S. and Canada, and their job is to represent musicians from all fields and genres, including freelancers or gigging musicians, touring, recording, composing, arranging, from the nightclub to theater pits in the symphony hall, and everything in between. But when I bring up the AFM to many working musicians, and trust me, for this reporting, I did, many artists haven't even heard of them, let alone used them. So I can't stop asking myself, how did it come to this? How is this allowed in music? I have a theory, and I'm sure it won't surprise you to hear. It has a whole lot of something to do with race.
My theory is you could never have a solid, proper union for music period, because you'd have to acknowledge how much was stolen And nobody's really ready to do that. I mean, talk about humanizing. In order to unionize, you'd have to look at everybody, all of Motown, everybody that's been robbed, and then compensate for that.
I don't understand either how we're going to have a union that actually works for us. And I believe it is because Black people are so dominant in this field. It's almost like why we don't have reparations yet, which I don't understand that either. But I understand that it's so much money that people don't want to let go of that's not theirs.
Although there are many reasons I would advocate for one to become a musician, making a decent living isn't one of them. But another issue is that despite the fact that we are not paid a livable wage for our music is still being made. The expectation of the presence of music in our society is still there. The machine is still running. Imagine one day without music. And this means that even if folks don't want to pay us to make it, they aren't letting us off the treadmill either. And as we already know, that treadmill comes with some horror stories, especially if you're young and Black.
You know, and it was like, I was so young. I wasn't even like, I didn't even feel as sexy as I looked. It was like it was definitely a disconnect. And I guess I did a good job because no one's noticed. It never was, everyone's like, oh, you look great. And that's kind of it. To work with, as a female in the business, to get a job as a background singer. And for a few days on the gig, the lead singer is mad at you because you didn't take his sexual advances. And then it's like, okay, for a few days, things are funky until I guess someone talks to them or they get their mind right and they realize that they're at work and so are you. And this should not even be a part of my job. It's like seeing other women being like played out because they're putting themselves in a groupie position sucks. When you're the only woman on the tour that's working there and they're like, it sucks to be a part of a band and the lead singer is like, has a person that they bring along and travel with that's going into the audience every night, picking out young girls or just girls to hang out with to bring them backstage. And like every single night, you're going to a different stadium, a different city, and this person is here literally just to find pretty girls in the audience to bring them backstage to party with every night. It's like really weird, and it is. That's not something as a woman that, like, if you have respect for yourself and you're at work, that you really need to see. Like, our work is not always fun. We are not always being honest on stage. A lot of the time we are faking it and nobody understands that. And the audience members, it's like almost like a whole thing. We're not supposed to let you guys know that like the person that we're sitting next to is an abuser, or the person we're, singing next to is, a drug addict. And now I live with them on a bus.
Another difficult reality for young Black women who are being assaulted or abused in these ways is that speaking up doesn't always feel like the safest option because historically we are disbelieved. Despite what you may have heard, the Me Too movement wasn't founded by actress Alyssa Milano. It was founded by a Black female sexual assault survivor, Tarana Burke, who first introduced the phrase in 2006 to specifically shine light on marginalized victims and survivors. Yet somehow, Black women have been ignored and even erased from the Me Too narrative.
Everyone's questioning, are you sure? What do you mean? That's something to say, like, oh, wow, like that's, and it's like, wait a minute, what about what I'm saying this person did? And it's like, no, they're more interested in the other side of it. And it's strange, especially for Black women.
So, why do we do this music thing? I mean, why bother? In my personal experience, I keep making music because I have to. It's in my bones. And there are some good and hopeful times. I can still pull a pretty decent check from live shows. I also have a good time performing, and happiness is always something to chase. But we also keep grinding in this way because the idea of fame isn't as easily brushed off as one might think. Fame isn't totally obsolete yet, even though music as a financial product basically is. Fame is integrated into our society. It's its own class, which sometimes has nothing to do with money. Its currency is people knowing you, knowing your name, knowing your art, and that can be a priceless feeling as an artist, something to spend your whole life seeking, even. The only issue? Fame is not a business plan. There's no one way to get to it, and it's not promised. But some folks in the industry will have you thinking otherwise. They will groom you to believe it's out there. All you have to do is, well, whatever they tell you to.
So a lot of it's tied up in also like, if you do this, then you will be famous. I will make you famous. And meanwhile, there's no method to fame.
Yeah, it's interesting that, you know, we hide so much as artists to have a chance to do our art. We just, in general, hide so much. We hide how we feel about the people we're working with. You know, we hide how the people we're working with make us feel. We hide what we really want to do versus what we're doing because it's not going to make money. It's not going to sell.
And so how is it, you know, that we get to keep doing this? Sustainability seems impossible. And that's when we are not being like raped and like forgotten about and like left for dead.
But it's incredibly hard. And for those who do it, I commend them. But it's so hard that it doesn't almost seem worth it. It's like, okay, well, if I want money, or not want, but need money that bad, it's like, I don't also need to do 4 jobs to do it. Like, I'll just do something else and sing when I sing. And when it gets hard and when times get tough, I definitely have those conversations with myself. Like, I don't need this shit. Like, you know, I put out music, people love it, you know, but then I have moments where I'm like, God, this is what I really want to do, you know, and it's a constant back and forth. And how much more can you dump on an artist? How much more? You have one job to do and you do your one job, maybe 2, maybe someone jumps a little bit extra, but our job as artists, they want us to write the songs, conceptualize, do the marketing, have the marketing plan together. Know what we want our videos to look like, write a treatment for our own videos. You know, hey, you have an iPhone. So people make videos on the iPhones. I mean, you have an iPhone. I mean, that's like the whole thing. You can just set it up and like tape yourself doing, you know, all the great, interesting things that you do. And it's like, that's not real for a 44-year-old woman. Because if you really want to see, do you really want to see what my everyday is like? I was just laying in bed for like 5 hours because I was sad that I didn't have a great turnout for my show. Is that what we want to see? No, we don't. This is one of the very few conversations I've had about the woes of things that I even go through, or just the realness, because people don't want to hear it. Interviewers don't ask you those questions because they know that's not like good clickbait, unless you're like pouring your heart out and crying, saying, like if I were crying right now, then I think that would be like the clickbait that Charlemagne would love, you know? But it's really interesting that, you know, as authentic as you think an artist is, we're just not. Because we can't afford to be.
Samuel Andre, Charisse Reese Ballard, thank you for talking, sharing, and hearing me today. That was part 1 of Stories from the Spotlight, Surviving the Music Industry as a Woman of Color. Part 2 will be out in 2 weeks, and you can find it wherever you found this episode. In part 2, I'll speak with NPR's Sydney Madden, who's an expert in one genre of music that's having a first-time brush with a reckoning as we speak.
Women being the collateral damage of this big hip-hop beef between two rap titans is just a long-running theme of how disposable Black women and femmes are in these spaces.
We'll also hear from someone who isn't just surviving, she's thriving in the world of indie music. And I'm here to learn her secrets.
In my case, I would say that I made the conscious decision to not participate in that, perhaps to my own detriment, in terms of my official on-paper career being like a super famous top 40 musician. But the other side of that is that, my mental health is more manageable and my personal sense of safety is higher.
The mix of this episode was a collaboration by our associate producer, James Stewart, and me. I composed our theme music. Other music is from Derek Rice and Blue Dot Sessions. Saeed Tijan Thomas Jr. edits our show, and Elodie Reed is the graphic artist behind our Homegoings artist portraits. Reese and musician Madam Gandhi are front and center for this one. You'll be hearing more from Madam Gandhi in part 2, but in the meantime, go check out both of these fierce musicians at homegoings.co. See you in 2 weeks for part 2 and more stories from the spotlight. If you have thoughts on part 1, reflections, or asks of me as your host about who we should talk to or what we should explore next on the show, write to me at hey@homegoings.co. As always, you are welcome here.
I'm Rachel Martin. You probably know how interview podcasts with famous people usually go. There's a host, a guest, and a light Q&A. But on Wildcard, we have ripped up the typical script. It's a new podcast from NPR where I invite actors, artists, and comedians to play a game using a special deck of cards to talk about some of life's biggest questions. Listen to Wildcard wherever you get your podcasts, only from NPR.